I'm here with Harald Schlatter. Is that how you say your last name?
Schlatter, Harald Schlatter.
Schlatter.
So it's difficult to
Sorry.
pronounce, I know.
Okay, let's try that again. I'm here with Harald Schlatter from Pantene, Procter and Gamble, and we're going to be doing a pocket talk around brand assurance. And I'll just say before we start getting into the questions, thank you so much to Pantene for supporting this conference as a pocket talk sponsor. And maybe before I start getting into the nitty gritty questions of safety assurance from a brand point of view, would you mind introducing who are you and what do you do?
My background is Ph.D. in biochemistry, and I joined P&G, oh gosh, many, many, many years ago. I think it's almost 20, 25 years ago. I stopped counting, in all honesty. um, and I was working for quite a long period of time in our product safety department. And a couple of years ago, I changed gears a little bit and am now more working in the scientific communications arena, where I'm trying to explain how product and ingredient safety is established, what kind of science goes into our products to really reassure our consumers that we are doing the right thing in order to bring safe products to them, to their families, and to make them feel good about using our products.
And with that, my first question related to safety assurance. So, I find risk is something that is widely misunderstood. Could you break down the difference between hazard and risk?
This is, I would say, probably the core piece of safety work. And in all honesty, even working in this area for quite many years, it is very difficult to convey what is the difference between hazard and risk. In simple terms, hazard is what any kind of material ingredient could do harm to you under extreme conditions, so to say. And risk is the likelihood, the probability that this will actually happen. So this is, I think, still a little bit, I would say, I assume, fuzzy. So there is one comparison I'm usually bringing up. And this is a material called acetic acid. And when you ever have worked in a lab, you know what is printed on a bottle containing acetic acid. There are warning labels on it, hazard warning labels. So, for example, that acetic acid can irritate your skin, it can irritate your eye. So it gives you this kind of, these are the hazards acetic acid can cause to you if you don't handle it properly. So that is the requirement for the material when it's being handled in a lab or, for example, in industrial manufacturing process. Now, how likely is that this is going to happen? And now the very same material, often in the same concentration, is sitting in your kitchen and you're adding it to your salad, to your food. It's vinegar. Vinegar basically is acetic acid, and of course with additional smaller amount ingredients, but the base material is acetic acid. And of course, you don't find any of these hazard labels on your vinegar or aceto balsamico bottle in your kitchen, because you know how to handle the bottle. That you put it on your food, on your dish, on your salad, but you don't spill it into your eye, or you don't put it on your skin and over and over and over again and leave it sitting for about a week or so. That is not what you're going to do when you're handling vinegar in your kitchen. So that I figured out over the years that this is what people then get of, because yes, there is the hazard of acetic acid, which yes, indeed, it could cause it when you spill it into your eye, it will burn. But of course, there's no risk for handling a vinegar bottle in your kitchen, because you know how to handle it and it's perfectly fine. You can even ingest it. You can enjoy it. It makes your salad taste much, much better.
Just one comment on this related to food. Another example could be salt. Like there is a lethal dose,
Yeah.
but we don't think about that risk because we get this enjoyment. It makes our food taste good. There's this risk benefit equation here. But with food, we can see, well, I like the way my food tastes when I put a little bit of salt in it, or I like the way my salads taste when I put a little bit of vinegar. But then when we come into the cosmetics arena, I think a challenge in our space, and I'm interested in your perspective here, a challenge is that people don't really understand the benefits of some of these ingredients in the same way as they would understand them in food. So, like, why are we using SLS? It's irritating. And then people don't really understand, well, actually, the best performing shampoos are going to have SLS. Or with a preservative, for example, preservatives are. I don't know, whatever people are going to say about preservatives, but then there's this benefit part of this equation. So I would wonder if you have anything to add to this component of this risk benefit analysis that I think maybe people aren't that great at evaluating when it's about things that really they don't understand and maybe is easy for marketers to kind of take advantage of.
Yeah, you're raising a very important point here is that we are, of course, marketing products, final formulations, which are supposed to cleanse your hair, to gently cleanse your scalp, and so to really make your hair looking good and fresh and cleansed. We are not selling individual ingredients, so we make sure that this is a very carefully balanced kind of composition of different ingredients in a complete formula, which is then doing the job. And looking at one single ingredient and pick it out of the whole equation is not giving you the full picture. And the point that you're bringing up SLS is a very interesting one, because yes, when you look at SLS alone, you could imagine, well, that's relatively harsh, you can say. The point what people often are missing is that SLS is basically the soap material, the detergent which cleanses, which washes away the dirt of your hair and of your scalp. There are plenty of other materials doing exactly the same. Are they any better or worse? You can't say this in that way because it very much depends on the amount of the material using and in which kind of formulation. With regard to SLS, yes, it is compared. If you just look at the individual ingredients, it may be a little bit harsher compared to others, or others might be a little bit milder when you use the pure material as such. But that's not what you put in the bottle. Important is it is SLS also the most efficient cleansing material, so to say. So we can use much less compared to the alternative surfactants we could use. So that means at the end of the day, the final formula is more or less exactly the same kind of in terms of mildness when it comes to the pure surfactant. Of course, the little bit less mild ones, you have to put much more into the formula to do the same job as SLS, where you can use much less of it. So I think this illustrates a little bit where if you have a more efficient cleanser, you can use less of it compared to another cleansing material where you have to add more into a bottle to achieve the same kind of performance. But at the end of the day, it doesn't say anything with regard to how mild or harsh or whatever of the overall, the final formula then is. I think that's very important.
And perhaps there's some cost savings benefits in that whole equation of using less of something that's very efficiently produced on the market. So then my next
It's not
question.
only
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
It's not only cost saving, it's of course when you can use less of a material, it's also has an important environmental impact as well. If you use less material, it also has kind of a sustainability benefit.
Past the efficiency of production too. That's a whole long conversation that we could just dive into an hour tangent, but I'll ask my next question. So my next question is, what does safety assessment for final products entail, and how does this give confidence for safety?
That's also a very good question. And let me go back perhaps to the earlier safety principles I started at the beginning with, and I think where we start off with is with what we call the 4D step process when we, for example, select ingredients of a formula. So the 4D process includes doubt, define, determine, and diligence. And let me explain quickly what each of them mean. First, any new ingredient which comes along or which is being proposed by our researchers, we look at it with a high level of doubt. Gosh, is this ingredient, is it doing what it's supposed to do? Can we establish safety? So a lot of skepticism is it's the underlying, let's say, mood when we look at new ingredients. So doubt is the first step. If an ingredient has passed this doubt gate, so to say, the second is then define. We define how much of an ingredient do you need in a formula to achieve a certain performance, and is this performance still within the safe range of the material? So like you explained this with the salt a bit before, for every material there is a safe range. And so we need to make sure that the ingredient is delivering what it's supposed to deliver within the safe range. The third step is then to determine how much needs to go into a product and how much we are then basically putting into the product for doing exactly this kind of job. And only when this is then established, then we are ready to basically bring the product to the market or start using it with consumers. But we don't stop there. So the fourth step, and this is ongoing, and that the last step never stops. It's diligence. So we keep on listening. We're looking up new scientific information becoming available. We talk with third-party experts, with academia, with regulators, also with consumer groups. And so we plug in any new information becoming available on this very, very new ingredient or any other ingredient we are using already for quite a while. So this is the foundation of this 4D process. And only when this all basically has been established, then of course, again, we are sure that the product can be safely used also with consumers. And we also, of course, go on and using before we putting them on the market and allow consumers to use the product to see whether they like it, whether it's performing like they wish it to perform. And some of those investigations we also do, for example, under dermatological supervision, so that people can also see, okay, if do they really like it? Is it as soft? Is it as mild as they want it to be? So these are the kind of then the final formula kind of evaluations then are basically the additional step on this 4D principles I have laid out earlier. Hope this explains it a little bit.
Okay, now I have one final question for you, which is there's an assumption that the inclusion or exclusion of individual ingredients will render products unsafe, harsh, or whatever else. And I know we've already went through this and we've went through this specific example, but to highlight safety assessment and how formulation is queen, how would Pantene assure products with perhaps a harsh ingredient like SLS are both safe and effective?
I think it really builds exactly on what we talked already before on SLS. Yes, SLS is a very efficient detergent, a soap ingredient helping to cleanse your hair. And so when we're using and formulating it within our products, then of course we make sure it has the same level of mildness compared to any other material or general kind of mild. That the whole formula is basically doing what it's supposed to do. Cleanse, shampoo the hair and the scalp, and doing this in the most gentle and soft way, so to say. Um, the I understand that people sometimes look at individual ingredients and believe, okay, with this ingredient it's better, and with when leaving the other ingredient out of the formula it may be safer. Again, this is cutting short based on the principles I have laid out before. There are some ingredients, of course, we as Pantene we would never go there, either because they are generally not allowed to be used in products, or we believe, and I said this already at the beginning, this doubt gate, they never pass our doubt gate because we believe it will be way too difficult to establish safety. So there are a lot of materials we would never use. But other than that, of course, and if a material can be established to be safe, if we can define a safe range, and this is well within the performing range, and if the material is also permitted by safety authorities, then it is indeed something which we consider using. Again, if it meets the performance criteria the product finally needs to achieve. But again, just looking at one particular ingredient, and again, the example with SLS shows it. It, it is not giving you the whole picture. It is really not giving you the picture. Yes, SLS compared to others, you simply see it SLS you can use less to achieve the same level. For other materials, you need to use more of those to achieve the same performance level. And overall, when you look at the final formula, both are equally mild. There is no difference.
And this is something that can and is substantiated. And for more on this, I believe this presentation would have been before, but if you haven't tuned into the presentation by Eurofins, if you haven't watched it, watch the replay and you'll get a lot more on how safety substantiation works. Harald, thank you so much for agreeing to this Pocket Talk. And again, thank you to Pantene for supporting our e-conference initiative as a Pocket Talk sponsor.
Thank you so much.
I think that was great.